will you please provide a little bit of an introduction and background to yourself, as specifically as far as the network executive goes? Because you've got former network executive reacts, but I don't know, even after following your channel, exactly what your position was, what your responsibility was, and what you did. Because I've got CBC in charge of comedy.
Yeah, so I don't want to overblow. People have attacked me already. Man, you're just on CBC, Canadian Broadcasting. That's not really much of an executive. So, yeah, that could very well be the case. I am not admitting to 30 years worth of Hollywood backroom dealing. So, I was, part of a comedy group called The Frantics, which became very, very well known in Canada. Our radio show, we did 120 of them, and we were 500,000 plus people were listening to us every single week. So that was higher than many Canadian TV shows. And we toured Canada, played to hundreds of thousands of people. We had a fantastic time. Now, out of that, I became head of TV comedy at CBC for 3 years, and part of the mandate that my boss allowed me to have was, I came up with the notion of bringing back expatriate Canadians from LA to teach us how to do sitcoms in Canada, which we did very, very badly, both from a technical perspective, because I'm a geek. There was just always something off about the look of Canadian sitcoms. So I was interested in how that was done. I was interested in the writing process and how it was done in the United States, and also, talk with expatriate Canadians. And I brought a lot of them back. I mean, Burt Metcalf was the director of, a third of MASH's. I got to speak with Stan Daniels. I mean, I got to speak with a phenomenal bunch of expats just to bring back that knowledge to Canada. So I spent a lot of time in LA, and I spent a lot of time in boardrooms, and I got invited to all sorts of things. So the normal arc of a Canadian executive is to stay in Canada, but that's not what I did. And so, I think I learned more in a very short amount of time, just because I was dedicated to learning, not just waiting for it to happen. Executive produced 4 sitcoms. So one was successful, but got canceled because the critics hated it. One we didn't air it at all because the test was very bad. 2 other shows got aired and lasted. One lasted 1 season, one lasted 2 seasons. Just a ton of experience from that. And then I went to LA when I quit. There was a massive layoff. Then helped executive produce a Newfoundland comedy show. Then went to LA and got interviewed for a position with Paramount, a VP of development at Paramount. And it was pretty much a done deal. And then an incident happened at the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And you want the story?
Sure.
So I'm sitting with another Canadian expat who spent the time at dinner complaining how NBC wouldn't take any of his calls, even though he had created several multi-million-dollar shows for NBC. And that's one of the things that you learned in LA, is that the one thing most people have in common is failure. So you can have 1 out of 10 successes, but 9 out of those attempts are failures. So the thing you have in common is failure. So you talk about failure.
Nothing works. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a fail, and there's a million reasons for things to fail. And so he was complaining that, he made NBC so much money and they're not returning his calls. And then I was close to the door and Cher came in. She startled me, one, because he was Cher and just because of the angle I was at or whatever. And for reasons I don't know, I blurted out, I went, "Hi, Cher," maybe a bit too loudly, maybe a bit too familiar a way. And I could see on her face, do I know this asshole? And so rather than embarrassing herself that maybe she should know me and doesn't want to show it, and she went, "Hi," really friendly. And she just put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Maybe we can talk later." And then she bugged off to her table. So suddenly she transferred to me in a temporary way her aura. I borrowed her aura. Everybody in the Polo Lounge was now looking at me. And they're going, what can I get from this guy? And people would come by, would give me their cards, call me, whatever. And it rubbed me so badly. And of course, the movie The Player was on. I watched it not that, maybe a couple of years earlier. It's a great movie, The Player. And if you've ever seen it, just absolutely fantastic. I recommend The Player. And I went back to my room at the Beverly Hills, and I went, wow, I'm turning into The Player. And I realized I just really didn't have a temperament for this. And because I also could program, I went, you know what? I think I'm going to dump all this and do my programmer thing. And I was down, I was supposed to be down, had another few meetings with Paramount booked, and I just called Air Canada and said, I want to leave now. Give me the red eye. 11:30. I'm on the plane. And I changed my booking, got on the plane, never went back. And then I started a new media company called the Digital Soup Company in 91. And then I've sort of been doing that business ever since, built it into a multi-million-dollar multinational business.
Oh, well, that's success.
So, I mean, I had success as a comedian. I had success as a network executive. I wrote for Spitting Image in the UK. And so, I mean, I had, I was happy. I was satisfied. And I realized, I kind of realized I didn't want to let LA rape me. So I went back home. My wife was surprised, and I said, I'm starting a new media company. I'm going to change the world, desktop publishing, and anyway, it doesn't matter. So no, I did really, really well with that, and made lots of money. And then I did a video game, which sold a crap ton. One of the most popular video games of that year, which was called Jewels of the Oracle. The only problem, it made millions of dollars. The problem was we didn't get any of our royalties. The publishing company went under, and we were owed a ton of money. So you could still say I'm a successful video game. Do I have a copy of it somewhere? Video game publisher.
I was just saying, I don't know much about video games at all. So here we have extremely successful video game developer.
I produced that,
and be a producer.
And so that did that, and then changed the business around from doing work for multinationals to a hosted web service where we charge $25 a month, and now we have so many clients that I don't have to work for a living. We just live off the residual income off the hosting of all our websites. So I learned business, comedy writing. It's funny being a comedian that learned how to do business, learned business, managed a ton of people, and learned how to do that. I think I'm pretty good at it. I'm a very happy guy. I've done a lot of things, succeeded at them. Actually, to tell you the truth, the thing that probably I'm most proud of was when the video game failed, and we became the company that was waiting to be paid company, and we were like in debt $150,000 back in the mid 90s, which was a lot more than it is now. And I remember going into the pit where all the programmers and staff was. I said, you know what, we're going to stop being the waiting to be paid company. I'm just abandoning going after these assholes who didn't pay us, and we're going to become a website development company. This was in 99 and 98, 99. And the staff freaked out. They went, yeah, but they owe us like $1 million and stuff. And I went, nope, bye, gone. I don't care. Move on.
We're moving forward.
Forward. I can either spend my psychic energy worrying about the past, or I can use my skills as a positive person and build something new.
Well, I like that philosophy. Now, I haven't had any kind of success on the level you're talking about, but sometimes you have to pull that number if you're going to be a
Yes. And
creative and you're writing something. You're like, okay, listen, we've had mistakes in the past or things that
yep.
happen or whatever, but we could spend a whole lot of time trying to fix that. But instead, we're going to build on what we got.
And the thing is, I was descending into a state of depression.
Mm.
And it was my wife in November of whatever that year was, bought me the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And it just hit me in weird way. And I just kept reading it and rereading it over and over. And it just changed me. Like at that moment, it just turned my positive jets back on, and my and then built up the company, landed Daimler as a global company and flying all over the world, JDS Uniphase and Oracle, Apple. So it was a neat run. So that I was actually most proud of, stopping the bad part and just changing direction and bringing everybody with me. And I was blessed that the people joined me on the journey. That's actually the better part of it, is that these people still trusted me enough to stick with me on this new journey.